Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Let's tackle this alternate reality that the Democrats are living in, but frankly, they're not living in that alternate reality because their policies and everything that's going on right now doesn't even affect them. They're probably getting richer. Let's tackle the alternate reality that they want you to be deluded enough and ignorant enough to believe and live in. I am so sick of all the lies, the distortion of facts. I am so sick of the rhetoric coming out of this administration. Making these videos is already difficult enough, but it's even more difficult because I can't cuss and I want to so bad when covering these kinds of topics because it's peak frustration, the frustrating nature of being lied to, what I'm always talking about. And so what we are going to continue doing, what we're going to tackle in this video, are all the fairy tale nonsense talking points, frankly the BS coming out of this administration. Let's contrast what Joe and his handlers are saying with, of course, reality. Got some stuff to get into, but before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with the most egregious lie that this president continues to peddle. Joe Biden keeps saying how Americans are just doing so well, and he keeps saying this specifically, that wages are up.
Wages are actually up, not down.
And look, the White House has been desperately downplaying inflation since the start. We all remember this infamous tweet, planning a cookout this year. Catch up on the news. According to the Farm Bureau, the cost of a 4th of July BBQ is down from last year. It's a fact you mustard. Hot dog, the Biden economic plan is working, and that's something we can all relish. And of course, this hasn't aged well. They keep trying to run these campaigns and how Americans are better off today than they were before. Joe says American wages are up, but of course, he very conveniently neglects inflation, but most importantly, neglects gas prices alone. Americans are shelling out $5,000 a year on gasoline as prices skyrocket. This was published on May 18th, when the average price for a gallon of gas was $4.56 nationwide. Well, that just hit $5, so it's no longer $5,000, it's probably a little bit more. But this president has the audacity to keep saying that you're richer now than you were before. You're richer under Bidenomics and Biden's incredible economic recovery than you were under Donald Trump and Trumponomics, as the average family is now spending $5,000 a year alone on gasoline. Just on gas. That's not counting increased rent, energy costs, grocery bills, and the fact that the increased cost of everything also makes literally everything else, every other service, every business, everything you can imagine, everything that operates within the American economy, more expensive. Oh, you're just getting so much richer under this incredible Biden economic recovery. Stop lying. $5,000 a year on gas. I don't know when this administration is going to start telling the truth. I mean, I really highly doubt they ever will. After the last year of every single White House, Janet Yellen, Joe Biden prediction being a massive flop and not aging well at all, they continue to try to inject this unrealistic hopium using these corrupt left-wing networks as the messenger. CNN Politics just released this right over here. Gas prices will tumble below $3 a gallon soon, government forecasts. Prices at the pump have finally started to creep lower, and that trend should significantly accelerate in the coming months, according to new government forecasts. The U.S. Energy Information Administration said Tuesday that the national average for regular gasoline will drop to $3 a gallon in January, and for 2022, gas prices are expected to average at $2.88. What? Where are they getting this number from? Well, don't worry, folks. Even though Joe Biden literally doesn't have a plan and has publicly stated that he can't do anything to bring inflation down or bring the price of energy down, somehow, the average cost of gasoline is just gonna cut in half by the end of 2022. Just take our word for it, because we're just, so accurate with this stuff. So accurate.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
And the data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. It's highly unlikely that's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Well, the number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain. Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
If you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts.
I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up. Everything.
Oh wait, literally the opposite of what this administration says comes true. You cannot get more dishonest. It's not possible. I mean, you can try, but I'm telling you it is not possible. There is no reason anyone should ever try to be more dishonest than this administration. This is the peak. This is the highest levels. I mean, it's getting to the point where we're seeing headlines like this. New poll finds that most Americans believe the Biden administration is intentionally letting gas prices rise. It's getting to the point where people are just not buying it anymore, and they think it's just one massive cruel joke or some sort of manufactured crisis that's intentionally causing them to suffer financially.
My plans to produce the strongest, fastest, most widespread economic recovery America has ever experienced.
This is the Biden economy, folks, where the president continues to tell you just how well everything's going, regardless of the fact that you're being financially beat down each and every single day, but I guess it's just some sort of prank, bro. They're lying about everything. I mean, for Pete's sakes, even the inflation numbers they keep telling us aren't accurate. Interactive Polls puts it into perspective. Did you know that inflation adds up to over 16% if it was calculated the same way we did it in the 1980s? Here's the chart. That's the real inflation number, or at least that's the comparison that we get to Jimmy Carter's era. Everyone keeps saying the worst inflation in 40 years since 1981. I'd say that's probably downplaying it. This administration and this complicit media have been doing exactly that since the start, downplaying it. And they're being so dishonest and so dismissive that they're even being called out by their own kind. Janet Yellen recently dismissing the idea that we're headed towards a recession, and even former Democrat Secretary of the Treasury, Larry Summers, refutes her dismissive claims.
One who has the job you once had said this week that, quote, there is nothing to suggest a recession is in the works. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't.
You think a recession is in the works?
I think that when inflation is as high as it is right now and unemployment is as low as it is right now, it's almost always been followed within 2 years by inflation, by recession. I look at what's happening in the stock and bond markets. I look at where consumer sentiment is. I think there's certainly a risk of recession in the next year.
Oh, and we also have a former Reagan economist absolutely eviscerating Joe Biden in this dishonest White House in the most epic of fashion.
Art Laffer talking about this is the strongest recovery in modern history. I don't know who wrote that script. It was obviously wrong, given we are in a contraction right now.
Yeah, it was just plain ignorant, Maria. And Brian is completely correct. Inflation is not only not peaking and not coming down, it is accelerating. And this is the worst news of all that the Biden administration could have. And when you combine that with a GDP decline in the first quarter by 1.5%, and now the forecast for the second quarter out of Atlanta is only 0.9% growth, that's atrocious. Total employment today is 800,000 people lower than it was in February of 2020. This is not a recovery. This is not even a catch-up back to where we were before. If you take the trend line, Maria, from February of 2020 on now, we're about 5 million jobs below where we should be had we just been on that trend line. This is a catastrophic economy, and I hate to say it, but Whoever wrote that piece in the Wall Street Journal for Biden doesn't know straight up from sick'em.
This is no economic recovery. And just like he said, I don't know who's writing this stuff. I mean, this is like Nancy Pelosi showing off her $25,000 freezers during the 2020 economic shutdown when people were suffering and going to food banks. Joe Biden talking about just how well people are doing as consumer sentiment sinks to its lowest level on record since the report was first introduced in the 1970s, plunging 8.2% in May to an all-time low. Disaster. The Biden economy disaster, Bidenflation, Bidenomics, the Biden recession. I mean, it's bad enough alone. It's even worse with all the lying and condescending BS and dishonest rhetoric that continues to come out of this regime. It's all just so despicable. That's what I got for you guys, though. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.